Hello, and welcome to Blue Girls Podcast Video. I'm going to be having videos starting in June of 2011, and so the first one is titled Crochet Beret. I was sitting in a room working, crocheting granny square beret. My youngest brother and my mom were sitting in the room, and I asked them for advice on beret. I was at church. I had to start redo part of beret. They didn't say anything. Then a big black woman was there in the chair, and I said something about how she was probably from a group home. I told lady, she said she was going into a group home but didn't want to tell me. So yeah, I was sitting in a kind of a waiting room with my youngest brother and my mom, who's deceased. And so there was an African-American woman there, and she was, she had mental health issues. And I think that we were thinking, my family and I were thinking that she was in a group home just on a behavior, or she was going into a group home. And I remember that I was working on a beret for a time when I lived in the Pacific Northwest. For something to do, I started doing hats or whatever, not berets or whatever. But anyway, so I had to redo it. I screwed up the hat, and so of course that could be symbolic for something else that I screwed up. But anyway, so that's kind of that dream. The next dream is Miss Dreams 2011, June 18, 2011. I was at this bar and I bought a couple of bottles of booze. Me and my older brother were sitting at a table, smoked it in a six pack. So I gave him $5. We left my wallet and things were scattered on the floor of bar. Then we were outside and there were these 1940s women that were dressed in blue. Well, they were dressed in the 1940s. So in real life, for a birthday, my older brother was living in California at the time, so I went out to San Francisco. I don't know if I just went out there to visit him or just to go to San Francisco. And so we were at this bar in real life, and I just remembered that we bought a couple bottles of booze, and I got really drunk. I was over 21, but and so they kind of, the bartender 69 me or whatever you called it. And that's the only time that's ever happened. And I was kind of surprised because usually, like when I was younger, I would drink before I went out to the bar because then it's, of course, cheaper. But I would usually stop. There's only been a couple of times in my entire life where I've been so kind of out of it. But anyway, that wasn't one of these times. So the guy 69 me just because I vomited in the bathroom and it was my birthday. So I meant, anyway, I don't know. So he just said, well, you can't have any more booze, and that was fine. But anyway, so whatever, smuggling in a 6-pack of booze, which I didn't do there, but I did somewhere else. I think it was someplace I was staying, I'm not sure. The Hip Hostel. I was at this apartment complex talking to a lady at the desk. There was a place available. I could either share a room like a roommate or share a bunk bed, which would be cheaper. I was going back and forth, wasn't for sure if I wanted to leave Lise and come into a new situation. There was another older lady there, my age and blonde, and it wasn't an unusual apartment. I wanted to be there because there was more happening in Uptown, of course. It was Seattle people, and it wasn't public housing. So I just remember at the time in the dream, I was living in the Pacific Northwest in the northern part, and I wanted to move to Seattle because there's more things going on. There was more happening. And so I was going to this hostel. I was going to stay there, which kind of doesn't really make sense. Well, maybe at the time they didn't have it where you could have a limit. They might have. But so I just remember I was going back and forth, and I think I was probably checking out other housing opportunities. But of course, in hostels now you can only stay there for so long. It's usually 14 days. And now, of course, you can't be like some places you can't be within so many miles. And it wasn't of the hostel, which back then, wasn't like that. But most places with the homeless and stuff. That's why, of course. But anyway, Pregnant Hamster and Trip, June 2011. The stream was more clear. There was a teddy bear hamster, and I asked someone if she was pregnant. There seems to be invisible energy around the stomach, so couldn't tell if pregnant or not. Something about 4 months. I was talking to this black girl. I asked my friend to help me with my 2 suitcases, but I didn't have time to pick. I didn't have time to pick up the suitcases after my job and then go to a bus station. I was going to leave on Thursday. Then it was Friday. I thought I'd go visit my aunt, but then I wanted to go someplace I had never been before. I knew I could stay at my aunt's for 2 weeks. So in the dream, okay, so there was a girl who was pregnant, and I've had dreams of stuff like this before. And of course, I'm thinking teddy bear hamster. Me and my youngest brother, we used to have teddy bear hamsters when we were kids. So whatever, I asked somebody if she was pregnant, and she was. I don't know why there was like invisible energy around her stomach, but there was. And something about 4 months. And anytime there's something about 4 months or so many months, it's usually coming out some kind of legal thing. Like I just had a dream of something about 75 and 3 months. Well, $75 is nothing. It's not that high. So I don't know if it's 75% or what's going on with that. But I've had another dream in which, it's like something about 2 months or whatever. I was dressed, I was slimmer. I was dressed. I had to go do something. And it was $600, but it was some kind of legal thing. So I don't remember talking to this black girl at all. And then I do remember my friend helping me. Well, I had these 2 red suitcases, and I remember being downtown Minneapolis, and I had my suitcases, and I was going to leave on the bus Thursday, but then it was Friday. And then I was going to go visit my aunt. And I wanted to go someplace that I never visited before. So this is like 2011. And I would say within the last 5 years, I've been kind of preferring to go to places that I've never been before, just because I've seen several states, or visited several states, mainly in the Pacific Northwest, West, or whatever, Southwest. But it's kind of like an adventure for me, and the older I get, I just want to go to places that I've never been before, I never experienced, because I've seen much of the Pacific Northwest and the Southwest. So in this particular dream, I remember saying, well, I want to go someplace I've never been. And I don't know where I ended up. I think this was just a dream. I don't think I went anywhere. But anyway, I think I wanted to visit my aunt too. Living with brothers, June 2011. I was at a house with my youngest and oldest brother and myself were living together, and we were all getting along. Not for sure where we were. Something about 20%. Then a young girl showed me a report. There was something about Panama City. There was an email sent from student loans not opened. The report said something, and I said, how do I get this off of there? Something about when I was 23. I said I wasn't there. Okay, so in this dream, I was living with my oldest brother who has a house, and then my youngest brother, and we're all getting along, which is rare. And so there was something from Florida that I had, that I got, something about the student loans, something about not being opened. And I was like, this one girl was helping me. I says, well, how do I get it off there? And it says something about when I was 23. I think it was on the 23rd. And I said I wasn't there. So that could have just been I was in between places. That simple. But I'm not for sure exactly what this was about. This dream never came to pass. A lot of these dreams don't, but sometimes little bits and pieces they do, especially when I lived in the Pacific Northwest. But anyway, the Hodge Podge is the next dream, and that's June 2011. I was at a convenience store and bought something to drink and ate some M&Ms. I was on a bus, and I had to put on my socks so I could get off bus. Had socks in one hand. Bus driver read it when I had my socks off, not prepared. Then I was sitting outside on a bench with 2 kids across from me. Okay, so whatever, I used to, like when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, and I still do it now, but not as much. I used to go to convenience stores and get the, a pop, or the fountain pops, and it sounds like I picked up some M&Ms. So, so whatever I had to, yeah, so whatever. I mean, it sounds like when I went to Greyhound, when I was on the bus, that I had my socks off, which I really wouldn't do. But anyway, in this particular dream, I had to put my socks back on. Maybe my feet were bothering me or whatever, because, you know, when you travel, sometimes your feet, I just had my traveled and now I have like my foot or whatever. I had some issues with my toes now. So maybe, I don't know, I don't know. But anyway, so whatever the bus driver said, well, you're not ready, you're not prepared. Then I was sitting outside on a bench with 2 kids across from me. So I'm not for sure where that was at. I'm seeing there was one time I had a dream in which I was sitting on a bench outside, but it was an Amtrak. And it was kind of a small station, and it was kind of cold. But I don't know if this is the same dream. I've only had like over 10 years of them, so the dreams can kind of get confusing. Hodge Podge. Oh, there's another one. I saw a blonde-haired girl with barrettes. And then there was an older guy with curly, wavy hair, balding, pot-belly with white shirt and dark brown or dark gray slacks, pants, and black belt. Okay, so in the dream, there was this girl. She was a skinny girl, and she had long blonde hair with barrettes on both sides. And there was an older guy who I'm describing here who later turned out to be a landlord in real life. And this is prior to me ever meeting him. Anyway, so he had not really curly hair, but kind of wavy hair, a little balding. He was dressed up in a white shirt and dark brown or dark gray slacks, and he had a pot belly. I remember because he did have a pot belly, but he would never, in real life, so there must have been something that he had to attend, but he would never really dress like that in real life. He was just kind of really not into fashion. He would just wear jeans or whatever, you know. So there must have been something going on in the dream. And anyway, so the next dream is church meeting, July 2011. I walked into a room where there were about 7 or 8 homeless men who slept on the streets. They had their coats on. There was a light on table, a man sitting in the back. That did paperwork. Okay, so this dream, I remember walking. It was like a homeless shelter for men. And I think I was like going to volunteer there for some reason. I don't know why. But it was nighttime, and it was just a room, and there were 7 or 8 men, and they were wearing these raggedy, I just remember one guy wearing this raggedy coat. And they were just sitting there. They couldn't sleep, but it was just a safe place for them to be at night. And then there was a guy in the back in the corner, and he was at a desk, and he had this little light on. And so I just remember going back, he did paperwork, but I was supposed to meet him. And so I think it must have been some kind of volunteering. That's all I can think of, because it was for men. So the next dream was I was with my brother, my youngest brother. He stopped by somewhere, and where I was at, I was staying at some place. Someone was letting me stay there. I didn't know he was going to pick me up. I grabbed my duffel bag and backpack. I wasn't for sure if I should grab my duffel bag or not, but thought, why not? I was intending to go back there, but wasn't going to tell, my youngest brother wasn't going to tell me something, and I thought I knew about it. I mentioned something about my youngest brother came to get me at this place. There was a man and a woman, and the man had a tendency to get violent. Okay, so it sounds like it's 2 separate dreams, and it's 2 different places. The first one I think was in Boston with the 7 or 8 homeless men in that small room with that guy in the back. And this other one with my youngest brother, is in the Pacific Northwest, and there were things going on with my therapist. And I remember getting words, we. And I remember when I first met her, and she was from, well, I don't really want to say where she was from, but my first impression was, I don't like you. So I don't know if it was I didn't like her or vice versa. But they say that if you have kind of a strong effect or strong reaction to somebody, that it could be like a past life. And sometimes, sometimes you meet people and you just have an automatic connection, like you've known them your entire life, But this was like, I don't like you. So I don't know if, like I said, if it was I didn't like her or vice versa or both. So there's something about we. So anyway, I felt like she was the one who was responsible for me. I was staying somewhere. I do not know why, but I went to this place. My youngest brother picked me up, and I was going to stay somewhere for a couple of days. And it sounds like it was some kind of shelter because there was a man and a woman, and the man had a tendency to get violent. So I think it was that. But I don't know why I would only be there for a couple of days. And so that was kind of strange. I mean, I don't know what was going on and why I would be there. Anyway, so the next dream is get up. I was sleeping and I was at my brother's place, my older brother's place, but it wasn't, I don't know, but it wasn't. He tried to get me up and don't remember. Then something else. Oh, he tried to get me up using sugar. Then I told my mom I can't get up, and it was like 11:30 a.m. There was a garbage pail, and I threw something in small pail and missed it. I asked what happened to large pail. There was a smaller one I mentioned about not telling him what to do. Okay, so for a period in my life, I just couldn't get out of bed. I was like, I'd wake up at around 11:30 a.m. for, I don't know, months at a time. And so my brother was trying to get me up. It sounds like he tried to use sugar, which was to be nice to me. Then he was telling me what to do, which he used to do when I was younger, my 20s and 30s. He doesn't really do that now. He just tries to be helpful, but he can be a little overbearing. But he means well. Anyway. So the next dream is discussion in a room. There was this girl who was retarded at this one place, room. She didn't want to do anything, wanted to know age, because didn't want to tell things. Okay, so this person in the room, it's not retarded as like having a mental disability, but as retarded as slowing down the process. So something was being retarded, slow down. Whatever. Yeah, so it was me, and then I didn't want to tell things. Well, I've had people get a hold of my information and, without my permission. And so I've had it where, I kind of learned the hard way. I used to be very, too trusting of people, and then the older I got, the more, not trusting of people. So anyway, I didn't want to tell things. Well, I meant, you just can't, in my opinion, you can't trust anybody. I don't care if it's a therapist or whoever. But anyway, so the next dream is the head and not the tail. I like this dream. There was this little white dog that was barking. He was jumping up and down. I couldn't hear him, but could see. And we were on a dock. Then like a camera, it moved, and I was in front of a small white cross bridge. There was a Mexican guy wrestling with a large stuffed wolf. In the background of bridge, I saw scenery of a different country. I thought Mexico, but it didn't look like Mexico. It didn't look like any country I've been to. There was this worm like springing, bouncing up and down like a picture. I thought the word head, and then the head and not the tail. This dream was very surreal, vivid, more real than other dream. It was like I was there. The country might have been Thailand. Okay, so I like this dream because I was actually traveling. And I said, I wanted it to be Thailand, but I don't think it was Thailand. It didn't look familiar. It didn't look like Mexico. I think it could have been a southern, now I don't remember exactly what it looked like, but I know it was kind of green. But it could have been somewhere in South America. And the reason why I'm saying like Mexico was because I didn't know where it was at. I just thought it would kind of have that South America kind of thing. So what was going on? There was this white dog that was on this dock, and he was jumping up and down, but I couldn't hear him barking, which was kind of strange. But I've had dreams like that before in which I couldn't hear what somebody was saying, and I've seen somebody talking in my dream, but I couldn't hear. And sometimes I take that as I'm not supposed to hear, or, it's kind of hidden. So anyway, and then I had a camera, and so the camera was right in front of me, and then I see this dog jumping up and down, and then the camera moved like that. And so then there was this Mexican guy who was wrestling a wolf, a stuffed animal wolf, right in front of me. And so I think at the time I might have had, because I remember sometimes, you get, for me, sometimes you hear like same words over and over again, but I remember hearing the word wolf, and it could be symbolic of somebody who's a wolf, or the last name Wolf, or somebody who's kind of got that kind of a character of a wolf. That's the only thing I can think of. And so some Mexican guy was wrestling with him. And then there was a background of a bridge, which of course the bridge is kind of, going, crossing to one place to another. And so I saw scenery of a different country. And it didn't look like any country that I've seen before, like I was saying. And so then there was this worm, like Jiminy the Cricket. And he was bouncing up and down, and I heard in the dream, head and not the tail. So head, of course, is the person who's first, and tail is the person who's last, right? So unfortunately, this dream never came to pass. And I said it might have been Thailand. I wanted to go to Thailand for many years, but I don't think it was Thailand. I think it was South America. So I was hoping it was Thailand in the dream. So guest plans. I was at this girl's house. She had long wavy hair, and she had male roommates standing up. She was on the couch. She said, "Why are you looking at her?" She said, "Why are you looking at me?" I said something about feeling safe and give me 3 days and I'll be fine. She couldn't find her credit card to buy items. Okay, so I remember this girl vaguely. She was sitting on a couch, and a threadbar couch or whatever, and it had a coffee table in front of her, and she had very long wavy hair with brown eyes. And I remember looking at her, and she's like, "Why are you looking at me?" And I was like, well, I wasn't like staring at her. I think that I was going through some stuff, and I said, "Well, just give me some time. I'm trying to feel safe." And she had guy roommates, so I might have just felt comfortable with just her, because I don't remember. I just know she had male roommates, but I vaguely remember there being in the dream. But anyway, so task completed. When I set my mind on getting A's in school, I got A's. When I set my mind on B's, I got B's. Then I'm at a house, another older woman there. The bike hand had already been hanging upside down, and the garage been completed. Okay, so I don't know why I'm talking about when I went, school in this one, but I think that I did, in the dream, I went to some woman's garage or whatever, and I was going to help her take her bike and hang it upside down from the garage, but that was already done. Heart design, I was in a store that had a lot of nice stuff, including, I don't know what that word is. It was a retail store. I was told that I'd like the job. It was something, an area. I went to the back, and there was a computer, and I had to design something. There was a puffy heart, and I had to move it by FBC. So I think that somebody offered me a job to design something. Now, I did take graphic design in college, and it really wasn't my cup of tea. But I did take it for like pre-graphic design. So anyway, somebody offered me to design something. Okay, and so then the next one is a lifetime ago, July 2011. I was at this church, and it seemed a little older, like almost a different time of English people. People were sitting around, and someone came in and offered to take me because some boy had been drinking, so I wasn't for sure if I should have gone with person, if I could trust him. It was a guy who I'd be going with. So I went to a different place, hid among the people, and something. I can't read that. After I left people were doing some Bible ritual praying. Okay, so I remember part of this, like in the beginning, it seemed like it was like a lifetime ago, and the person that I was with, a guy, had a tendency to get, like when he drank, would get whatever obnoxious. I don't know if he would get physically violent. I don't know, but he would just get kind of belligerent. And so anyway, so I remember that it was a different era. It was a different time. And it says in here, like English, it was kind of like a village. I remember that. But then the dream switched and it went to modern day, and it was the same thing, but only modern day. And this time I was at instead of like a village, English village, I was at a church. And so this guy came and said, okay, well, I didn't know this guy. And, he said, well, you can come with me, and, I'll get you away from this guy. I'll hide you somewhere. And I didn't know if I could trust him, and I didn't even know him. But I went with him anyway. And so that's not something I would normally do. But anyway, and I don't remember the guy either, the belligerent guy. I vaguely remember him. I just remember this guy approaching me saying, well, you want to come with me. And I remember sitting outside. Like, not in the beginning, but in the end, we were at a church and people were sitting outside on the grass. The next one is shedding like a lizard. I was somewhere else. I walked into this hut-like thing. There was people, a couple of college kids who were really smart in reading, and I couldn't understand some of it. I felt intimidated by their intelligence. I kept on peeling, so I was peeling my skin off over and over. It mentioned something about not reading the horoscopes for August. Then there was this woman who just happened to do some audit, and she handpicked me. Then I was in the courtroom and mentioned my eBay work. So, so at the time I was applying for a volunteer position in the Pacific Northwest. It was kind of, I don't know if it was a B&B, but it was some kind of volunteering. And I remember that the kids, the teenagers or college kids, I was a little older, my 30s, they were talking about all this stuff that I didn't really understand. It wasn't really my topic, but they were kind of bragging about how smart they were. And so I felt intimidated by that in the dream, and I didn't end up volunteering there, but I think when I was applied, this is kind of when I had the dream. So whatever, my skin was peeling over and over again, and I've had another dream like that, and I'm never sure what it meant. I think, it's dead skin and it's peeling and it's over and over again. And then there was this woman who just happened to handpick me for some audit, and I don't believe that she just happened to handpick me. I wasn't working at the time, so why are you, harassing me? And they knew I wasn't working. And so anyway, so I meant that's kind of the end of the dreams here. And thank you for watching the Blue Girls Video Podcast Dream series.